My name is Olivia, and the day my mom realized I owned her house was the first time in my life I saw her completely speechless. She was standing in the middle of the empty living room, the same room where we'd put up Christmas trees and birthday banners and family photos for over 25 years. The walls were bare now. The carpet was worn and flattened where the couch used to be. The bank had given my parents until noon to be out. It was 11:30 a.m. My mom turned and saw me standing in the doorway. Her face went from tired to furious in about 2 seconds. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "The bank already changed the locks. You shouldn't even be inside." I held up a set of shiny new keys. "They changed them yesterday," I said. "I changed them again this morning." She frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" I took a breath. "Mom, I bought the house." For a second, I thought she hadn't heard me. Then her face crumpled like I'd punched her. "No," she whispered. "No, you didn't. You can't. This is our home." "Not anymore," I said quietly. "The bank took it. I bought it at the foreclosure auction." She staggered back until she hit the wall and slid down to sit on the bare floor. "You can't do this to us," she said, her voice rising. "We're your parents. After everything we've done for you." Her words hung in the air. After everything they'd done for me. Like stealing my college funds so my brother could have a Pinterest-perfect wedding. This is the story of how that happened and why, years later, I walked back into the same house as its new owner. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, in a beige 2-story house on a quiet cul-de-sac. American flag on the porch, kids on bikes, everyone's dad mowing the lawn on Saturday mornings. Very standard, very middle America. My family looks standard too. My dad worked for the county in maintenance. My mom was a receptionist at a dentist's office. I had one older brother, Ryan. Ryan was the golden child from day one. He was the first grandchild, the only boy, my mom's pride and joy. If he played t-ball, the whole extended family came to watch. When he drew a stick figure, it went on the fridge like it was the Mona Lisa. When I brought home an A, my parents said good job without looking up from the TV. When Ryan scored 8 points in a basketball game, we went out for celebratory pizza and listened to my mom retell every detail like he'd just won the NBA Finals. It wasn't that they screamed or hit or anything like that. It was more subtle. There was always money for Ryan's stuff. Travel baseball. Football camps. New cleats every season. When he wanted a drum set, they somehow made it happen, even though we were broke. When I wanted to join dance, it was, "Sweetie, that's really expensive right now." When I asked about a school trip, it was, "Maybe next year." Things are tight. The funny thing is, I learned to stop asking. Instead, I leaned into being the easy one. The kid who got straight A's, who never caused trouble, who didn't complain. At 13, I was sitting at the kitchen table, doing homework, when I overheard my parents in the next room. "We can't afford that tournament in Atlanta," my dad said. "The credit card's almost maxed." "We can't pull him out now," my mom replied. "Scouts go to those things. This is his chance. I'm not going to stand in the way of his future." I glanced down at my algebra worksheet and wondered if anyone was worried about my future. A few nights later, I got my answer. I'd been Googling scholarships on our old computer, trying to figure out what college might even cost. My mom walked by and saw the screen. "Oh, honey," she said. "You don't need to stress about that. We've been saving for you since you were born." I blinked. "You have?" "Yeah. Remember when Grandma and Grandpa gave you bonds for your birthdays? That all went into a college account. It's a 529 plan," she said proudly, like she knew exactly what that meant. "Between that and financial aid, you're covered. Your job is just to keep those grades up." That was the first time she mentioned my college fund. She brought it up a lot after that. Any time I worried about money, she'd say, "That's what your college savings is for." At Thanksgiving, she bragged to relatives, Olivia's set. "We've been putting money away for her college since she was a baby." I believed her. That account became this glowing, invisible safety net in my mind. Something solid I could count on in a family where everything revolved around my brother. By high school, our roles were locked in. Ryan was the star athlete, good enough to be the best in our county, not good enough for any actual offers beyond a couple of community college coaches who said maybe walk on. He didn't care about school. He scraped by with C- grades, skipped assignments, stayed out late, partied with his friends. When he got his license, my parents gave him mom's old car and bought themselves a newer used one. He racked up speeding tickets, and every time my dad grumbled and paid them. Boys will be boys, my mom would say with a sigh. I, on the other hand, lived at the library. I joined the honors track, took AP classes, joined debate and yearbook, volunteered at the library on weekends. I was building a resume because I thought I had a shot at a good school. I'd ask about Ryan's future sometimes. What's Ryan going to do after graduation? I asked once. My mom waved a hand. He'll figure it out. Maybe community college, maybe something in sports. He's got time. When I asked about my own plans, the answer was very different. You're our college girl, she said. We expect big things from you. Senior year, I applied to a couple of in-state universities and one private school in Virginia that was my dream. I didn't think I'd get in. When the acceptance letter came with a decent merit scholarship, I screamed. We had a little celebration dinner. My dad grilled burgers. My grandparents came over with a cake that said congrats, grad, even though graduation was months away. We're so proud of you, my grandpa said. This is exactly what that college fund was for. My mom nodded. See? I told you not to worry, Liv. Between the scholarship, your 529, and a little financial aid, you're set. We sat down at the kitchen table with a stack of papers, the way families in commercials do. My dad spread out the numbers. Okay, so tuition minus scholarship, plus fees, that's this much. Room and board will be… Wow, okay, that's more than I thought. My mom waved him off. We've got her fund. That covers what, 2 years? Just about, he said, tapping his calculator. Then she can take out reasonable loans for the last 2. It wasn't perfect, but it was a plan. A real solid plan. I felt guilty, in a way. Here they were stretching to send me to a nice school, while Ryan worked part-time at a tire shop and talked about maybe enrolling in a couple of online classes someday. But every time I tried to say, "Are you sure?" my mom cut me off. You earned this, she said. Don't feel guilty. Just make us proud. I made a promise to myself that night. I would not waste their sacrifice. I had no idea they were about to waste mine. My brother met Jenna at a bar 6 months after he barely graduated high school. She was pretty and outgoing, and had that Instagram perfect life, always at the lake, always in someone's Jeep, always holding a drink in photos. They were engaged within a year. When they announced it at Sunday dinner, they did it like a gender reveal. We have news, Jenna said, showing off her ring. My mom gasped so loudly I thought she was joking. Oh my God, she said yes. My mom squealed, hugging them both. My baby boy is getting married. Within 10 minutes, she was already talking venues and dates and color schemes. I sat there pushing green beans around my plate, trying to figure out how we were going to afford any of this. We'll keep it simple, my dad said. Courthouse, barbecue in the backyard, that kind of thing. My mom shot him a look of pure horror. Our son is not getting married at the courthouse, she said. He deserves a real wedding. A nice one. We'll make it work. Over the next few months, we'll make it work turned into. We put a deposit on this barn venue just outside Asheville. And we booked the photographer. She's expensive, but she's amazing, and it's just a small upgrade. It's worth it for the photos. Anytime I asked about my tuition payment, my mom got vague. We'll handle it, she said. You just focus on graduation. We'll sit down with the numbers later. Later didn't come until it was almost too late. It was early July. I'd just gotten back from orientation at my university. I had a dorm assignment, a class schedule, and a packing list. All I needed was for my parents to send in the first big payment. That afternoon, my mom was at the kitchen table with her laptop and a stack of bills. There were thick envelopes from the mortgage company, from a couple of credit cards, and from the venue with a big cursive logo. Willow Creek Barn Weddings. Hey, I said carefully. Do you have a few minutes to go over my tuition bill? The deadline is coming up. She didn't look up. Yeah, we need to talk about that. Something in her voice made my stomach twist. I sat down across from her. What's wrong? She closed the laptop and folded her hands like she was about to give me bad news from a doctor. We've had some setbacks, she said. The water heater went out. The car needed work. Your dad's overtime got cut. And the wedding. My chest tightened. What about the wedding? It's more expensive than we thought, she said quickly. But don't worry, it's going to be beautiful. We've already put down deposits on everything. We just need to come up with the remaining balance. Okay, I said slowly. But what does that have to do with my college fund? She took a deep breath. We had to use some of it, she said. Just temporarily. To cover the down payment for the venue and the photographer, and to get caught up on the mortgage. We thought we'd replace it, but then more things came up. How much is left? I asked. She hesitated. Mom, how much is left? Not much, she admitted. A couple thousand. Enough for books and maybe some fees. But with your scholarship and student loans, you'll be fine. My ears were ringing. My college fund was supposed to cover 2 years, I said. Where did it go? Her voice went defensive. Don't use that tone with me, she said. You act like we spent it on nothing. We used it to keep a roof over your head, and to make sure your brother has a solid start to his adult life. We're not just thinking about one kid here. We have 2. You used my college money to pay for Ryan's wedding, I said, each word sharp. For a party. It's not just a party, she snapped. It's his wedding. His wife's family expects a certain standard. We can't look like trash in front of them. And by the way, that money came from our paychecks too. It wasn't just Grandma and Grandpa's. We've been putting money into that account for 18 years. It's not like it was your personal piggy bank. That's exactly what you told me it was, I said. My whole childhood you said, this is for your college. You told people, this is for Olivia's education. You made promises you had no intention of keeping. She slammed her hand on the table. How dare you, she said. Do you have any idea how much we have sacrificed for you? Food, clothes, school supplies, a house. Do you think that was free? At some point, kids have to step up and be adults. You have a scholarship. You can take loans. You're smart. You'll figure it out. Your brother doesn't have that. So I'm being punished for working hard, I said. And he's being rewarded for doing nothing. Life isn't fair, she shot back. And you'll be grateful one day that we taught you independence. Something in me broke. Independence would have been you being honest with me before the money was gone, I said. So I could actually plan. This is betrayal. Watch your mouth, she said. I will not be spoken to like this in my own house. I pushed back from the table so hard the chair scraped. Right, I said. Your house. Your rules. Your decisions. Got it. Where are you going? She demanded. To work a double shift, I said. Apparently I'm funding college by myself now. She shouted something else as I walked out, but I didn't hear it over the pounding in my ears. Somehow, I still went to college. I sat in the financial aid office and told a stripped-down version of the truth, that the money my parents said they'd contribute was no longer there. They adjusted my package a little, found one more grant, bumped up my federal loans, suggested private loans I really didn't want to touch. I took the federal ones and got 2 campus jobs lined up before I even moved in. Move-in day looked like a commercial for resilience. Everywhere I looked, there were families unloading SUVs, parents carrying boxes upstairs, moms making beds and hanging curtains. I parked my rusty Civic in the corner of the lot and hauled my own stuff in laundry baskets. My parents didn't come. My dad texted, "Sorry, kiddo, had to work overtime. Proud of you." My mom sent a picture from Jenna's bridal shower with the caption, "Wish we could be there. Take lots of pics of your dorm." I stood in my half-empty room and stared at that text until the words blurred. My roommate's parents brought in a mini fridge, a rug, a TV, string lights, snacks. I brought a single fitted sheet, 2 suitcases, and a box of ramen. That first semester was brutal. I woke up at 4:45 a.m. 5 days a week to open at the campus coffee shop. After my shift, I'd run to morning classes, sit through lectures on toes that still hurt from standing for hours, then do homework in whatever quiet corner I could find. 3 nights a week, I worked the front desk in a residence hall until midnight. Thursday through Saturday, I picked up extra shifts to cover bar rush. I learned exactly how many hours I could function on 5 hours of sleep. I watched other freshmen go to football games, join clubs, crowd into cars for late-night Walmart runs. I watched Instagram stories of Ryan and Jenna's wedding prep at a rustic barn venue with Edison bulbs and mason jars and artisan donuts. I remember sitting in the back room of the coffee shop on my 10-minute break, phone in hand, staring at a picture of my parents under a string of lights, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. I wanted to throw up. The wedding itself was the same weekend as midterms. My mom sent me 42 photos and 4 videos. She looked stunning in a navy dress. Ryan was in a custom suit. There were sparkler send-offs and a choreographed first dance. No one noticed I wasn't there. They didn't even FaceTime me. That hurt more than I like to admit. The next few years were just grind. I did well in school. I didn't really have a choice. Failing a class would mean wasting money I literally didn't have. I graduated on time, with honors, and a student loan balance that made me want to pass out. My parents came to my graduation. My mom cried and hugged me and said, "See, it all worked out. Aren't you glad we pushed you to be independent?" I smiled for photos and kept my teeth clenched so I wouldn't say something I couldn't take back. Ryan and Jenna, meanwhile, burned through jobs and apartments like they were disposable. He sold cars for a while, then did HVAC, then delivered packages. She did hair, then lashes, then social media consulting that was mostly just her trying to sell leggings and vitamins to her friends. Any time I came home for holidays, my parents had new complaints. "Ryan's boss is such a jerk," my mom would say. "He doesn't appreciate him." "Jenna's so stressed," she'd add. "Daycare is expensive. We've been helping with the kids." Helping meant they were paying half of Ryan and Jenna's rent, buying diapers and groceries, and babysitting constantly while still making the mortgage on the house and all their own bills. Every once in a while, my mom let something slip. "The minimum payment on that credit card is killing us," she'd say. "But what can we do? We put a lot of the wedding on there, and then the second car, and then..." Whenever I hinted that maybe Ryan and Jenna should scale back, my mom snapped. "You don't understand," she said. "They have a family. It's different." I didn't have a family, I just had debt. After college, I got an entry-level job at a marketing agency in Raleigh. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a foot in the door. I moved into a tiny apartment with 2 roommates, drove my same beat-up Civic, and lived on grocery store pasta and frozen veggies. I also started therapy. I didn't go because of the loans, even though they stressed me out. I went because I couldn't shake this constant feeling that I didn't matter to my own parents. My therapist listened to the whole story: golden child brother, stolen college fund, wedding photos. All of it said, "So you were the responsible one and they used you as the family safety net." That phrase, family safety net, hit me hard. I realized that my mom didn't see me as a person with limits. She saw me as a resource. Time, money, emotional labor. If there was a gap, she assumed I'd fill it. I decided I was done being the net. I still called. I still visited for Christmas. But I started setting small boundaries. "No, I can't come home and babysit for 2 weeks. I have work." "No, I can't lend you $1,000 for Ryan's car payment. I'm paying off my loans." I could feel the shift. My mom's voice got a little colder on the phone. She made comments like, "Some people forget where they came from and money's gone to your head." But I also slept better at night. At work, I kept my head down and crushed it. I took extra projects, got Google and Meta certs, moved from junior copywriter to strategist in a couple of years. By 27, I was making more than both my parents had ever made, combined. I wasn't rich, but I had an emergency fund, a growing 401k, and a little house fund in a high-yield savings account. For the first time, I could imagine owning something. Then the phone rang. It was a Thursday afternoon in late fall. I was in the office kitchen heating up leftover chili when my phone buzzed with a call from my dad. He almost never calls during the day. "Hey, Dad," I said, stepping into an empty conference room. "Everything okay?" He cleared his throat. "Liv, you got a minute?" I sat down. "Yeah, what's wrong?" "We're in some trouble with the mortgage." My stomach dropped. "What kind of trouble?" "We're a few months behind," he said. "More than a few. They've started the foreclosure process." I pressed my fingers into my temple, trying to stay calm. "How many months?" He told me. It was worse than I expected. "How did it get this bad?" I asked. There was a long sigh. "You know how it is," he said. "Your mom's hours got cut during COVID. Then there were her medical bills, then the roof leak, then Ryan lost another job, and we helped with their rent. And then the car? We took out a second mortgage to cover some of it, but the interest is killing us." "Why didn't you say something earlier?" I asked. We thought we'd catch up, he said. Your mom kept saying Ryan's new job would stick. Then we got the notice. They've set a date for the auction. The word auction hit me like a punch. Is there anything you can do? He asked quietly. You're doing well now. Maybe you could loan us the money to catch up and we'll pay you back when we sell the place or when Ryan gets stable. Your mom she's a mess over this. I looked down at my hands. I could help. If I emptied most of my house fund and tightened my belt, I could cover what they owed and keep them from losing the house. On paper it made sense. It was the right thing, the good daughter thing. But all I could see was my mom at the kitchen table, telling me my college account was empty because she'd used it on Ryan's wedding. All I could hear was, "You'll be fine. You're independent. Your brother needs the help." I took a long breath. "I need time to think," I said. "When is the auction?" He gave me the date. It was about 6 weeks away. "I'll call you back in a few days," I said. "Okay," he said, sounding relieved just to have talked about it. "Your mom's going to be so happy we called you. She knew you'd come through." The call ended. I sat there in the empty conference room, the fluorescent lights buzzing, my lunch going cold in the microwave. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to scream. And part of me, the part that had been sharpening itself slowly for years, opened my laptop and typed, "How do foreclosure auctions work in North Carolina?" For the next couple of weeks, I lived in two separate realities. In one, I was the good daughter, the version of me my parents expected, the one who would sigh, transfer a chunk of my savings, and let them keep the house while they continued making the same choices. In the other reality, I was someone who had finally learned that family doesn't mean handing over your entire future on demand. I talked to my therapist. I talked to a financial planner. I even talked to a lawyer friend from college. All of them asked me the same question. If you help them now, do you honestly believe they won't end up back in this situation in a few years? I thought about their history. They had taken money meant for my education and used it on a wedding. They had kept bailing out Ryan and Jenna, even as it pulled them under. They had never once sat me down and said, "We're sorry. We hurt you. We should have done better." I thought about what my mom said when I confronted her about the college fund. "You'll be fine. Your brother needs us more." If I saved their house now, what message would that send? That they could always count on me to clean up the mess? That my hard-earned stability was just one more family resource for them to tap? I loved them. I didn't want them homeless. But I also didn't want to sacrifice my future home the way they'd sacrificed my college education. So I made a decision. I wouldn't give them money. I would show up somewhere else. At the auction. The day of the auction was icy and gray. One of those southern winter days where the sky looks like wet concrete. I took the morning off work and drove to the county courthouse with my stomach in knots. The auction was held in a bland meeting room with beige walls and folding chairs. There were maybe 15 people there, most of them older men in work boots and Carhartt jackets, holding manila folders. I checked in, showed my ID, handed over a cashier's check for the deposit amount, and got a bidder number on a little paddle. When the auctioneer read out my parents' address, my hands went cold. 3-bedroom, 2-bath single-family home in Brookview Estates, he read. Opening bid, $110,000. That number was lower than it should have been. Years of deferred maintenance and the foreclosure had dragged the value down. A man in a navy coat raised his paddle. $110, the auctioneer said. Do I hear $115? Another investor bid. They went back and forth for a while. When it hit $130, I raised my paddle. Bidder 17, $130, the auctioneer called. Do I hear $135? The man in navy glanced over his shoulder at me, then looked back at the auctioneer and nodded. $135. We danced like that up the numbers. When it got close to the cap I'd set for myself, the other guy paused. I could tell he was doing the same math I had done. Repairs, property taxes, potential rent. I pushed my paddle up one last time. The auctioneer scanned the room. $145 going once, going twice. The silence stretched. Sold. To bidder 17. Just like that, it was done. I signed paperwork with shaking hands. The clerk explained the next steps, the remaining balance due within 30 days, the transfer of title, when I'd get my official deed. By the time I walked back out into the cold air, I owned the house I grew up in. I sat in my car for a long time, the heater blowing on my face, staring at the steering wheel. I could still call them. I could say, "Good news, I saved the house. You can stay, you just have to pay me rent." But I knew how that would go. The first month they had a crisis, they'd say, "We'll be a little late, you understand, don't you?" And then my boundary would crumble, one accommodation at a time. I didn't buy the house to become their new bank. I bought it to stop being one. The bank gave my parents 3 more weeks before they had to be out. I didn't tell them what I'd done. It sounds cold when I say it out loud. Like I was lurking in the shadows, waiting to watch them suffer. The truth is, I didn't trust myself. If I called and heard my mom crying, I might cave. I might give them money, or offer them a deal, or let the old guilt pull me back into my role. So I stayed quiet. On move-out day, I parked a couple of houses down and watched. The moving truck was already there when I arrived. My dad carried boxes to the curb, his back hunched. My mom stood on the porch, directing people, wiping her eyes with a tissue. Ryan and Jenna showed up an hour later. Ryan talked with his hands, looking pissed, like this was somehow an inconvenience for him. No one looked at the house the way you'd expect after 25 years. It was like they'd already detached. When the truck and their cars pulled away, I waited 5 more minutes. Then I drove up the street, turned into the driveway that used to be ours, and parked. The bank had changed the locks, but they'd given me a code. I punched it in and walked inside. The house felt smaller without furniture. In the hallway, there were faint rectangle outlines where wedding photos and family portraits had hung. In the dining room, a sun-bleached square on the wall showed where a big wooden cross used to be. In my old bedroom, the wallpaper I'd chosen in middle school, tiny teal flowers, was peeling at the edges. On the closet doorframe, I found the pencil marks. Olivia 8. Olivia 12. Olivia 16. I traced them with my fingertip and swallowed hard. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from my dad. "We're out," it said. "Turning in the keys. This is the worst day of our lives." A second later, another text. "I wish things had worked out differently. Love you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, "Can you and Mom meet me at the house in an hour?" He replied right away. "You sure? We're not supposed to go back in." "I'm sure," I wrote. "I'll let you in." An hour later, their car pulled into the driveway. My mom got out looking wrung out. My dad looked 10 years older than the last time I'd seen him. She marched up the walk. "Olivia, what are you doing?" she demanded. "The bank has this place now." "We're not allowed to just have a key," I said, and opened the front door. They followed me in. "What do you mean you have a key?" my dad asked. I turned to face them in the empty living room. "I bought the house at the foreclosure auction," I said. "It's mine now." My mom's mouth actually fell open. "You're lying," she said. "You wouldn't do that." I pulled the folded copy of the sale document from my bag and handed it to my dad. He read it slowly, his shoulders sinking. "It's true," he said quietly. She did. My mom snatched the paper, scanned it, and then looked up at me with eyes full of tears and fury. "How could you?" she hissed. "We're your parents. We raised you in this house. You also emptied my college fund in this house," I said, my voice steady. "You chose Ryan's wedding over my education in this kitchen right over there. That was years ago," she snapped. "Are you seriously still hung up on that?" "Yes," I said. "Because I'm still paying for it. Every month. Those loans didn't go away just because you danced at a barn under twinkle lights." She flushed. "We had to help your brother," she said. "He was starting a family." "So am I said. "My future family. The one I'd like to be able to support someday because I didn't drain my savings bailing you out." My dad stepped between us a little. "Look," he said. "We know we made mistakes. We should have told you about the money sooner. We shouldn't have done a lot of things. But buying the house out from under us? That feels cruel." I shook my head. "I didn't buy it out from under you," I said. "The bank took it. Anyone could have shown up at that auction and grabbed it at a discount. At least this way, it stayed with someone who has a reason to care about it. You could have just given us the money to catch up," my mom said. "You had it. We know you did. You brag about your savings." "I mentioned my savings because I had to build them from nothing," I said. "Because there was no safety net for me. The only reason I even had that money is because I refused to live the way you taught me. Paycheck to paycheck, one crisis away from disaster." She crossed her arms tightly. This is revenge, she said. Don't pretend it's not. Part of me wanted revenge, I admitted. Part of me wanted you to feel exactly as helpless as I did when you told me my fund was gone. I took a breath. But that's not why I did this. I did it because I will not sacrifice my future home the way you sacrificed my education. I'm done being your emergency plan. My dad's eyes filled with tears. What happens now? He asked. Are you going to flip it? Move in? What about us? I haven't decided everything yet, I said. I know I'm going to fix it up. It needs work. Eventually I might live here, or I might rent it out. What I'm not going to do is act like nothing's changed. My mom's voice went small. Could we stay? She asked. Just for a while? We could pay you rent. You'd be helping us and investing in your future. Win-win. Her eyes were wide, hopeful, the way they always were when she was about to ask for something big. If this had been a movie, maybe this is where I would have softened. Maybe we would have hugged and agreed to some fair arrangement with clear terms. But this wasn't a movie. This was my actual life. I pictured the very first month something went wrong, a car repair, a medical bill, Ryan losing another job. I could already hear the excuses. Can we be a little late with rent? You know we're good for it. You don't need the money that badly, right? You're doing so well. I shook my head. No, I said gently. I'm not going to be your landlord. That would just turn every family disagreement into a fight about money. You need a fresh start in a place you can actually afford. And I need to finally have something that's mine. My mom's face hardened. You're heartless, she spat. We should have never sent you to that fancy school. They turned you against us. They didn't turn me into anything, I said. You did, the day you chose a Pinterest wedding over your daughter's future and told her to figure it out. That day, I learned exactly how much I could count on you. We stood there in a heavy silence. You can hate me for it, I added. But I'm not going to light myself on fire to keep you warm anymore. My dad wiped his eyes. I am sorry, Liv, he said. For the college money. For not standing up to your mom. For all of it. I know, I said. And I appreciate you saying that. But an apology doesn't mean I owe you my savings. He nodded slowly. I guess we'd better go, he said. The moving trucks headed to the apartment. I walked them to the front door. On the porch, my mom paused and looked back into the house. I brought you home from the hospital and walked through this doorway, she said, voice shaking. We measured your height on that frame. We did Christmas here. How can you just take it? I followed her gaze to the pencil marks on the door frame. For what it's worth, I said quietly. I'm not planning to paint over those. She swallowed. One day, she said, you'll have a daughter. And when she treats you the way you're treating me, you'll understand how this feels. I thought about it. If I ever have a daughter, I said, I hope I never make her feel like her dreams are negotiable, depending on who else wants something shiny. If she ever stands up to me the way I'm standing up to you, I hope I'm brave enough to admit I deserve it. She stared at me like I was speaking another language. Then she turned and walked to the car. My dad gave me a sad, tired smile, then followed. I watched them drive away from the curb. When their car turned the corner and disappeared, I went back inside, shut the door, and locked it. For the first time in my life, it felt like my house. In the months that followed, I did what I told them I'd do. I hired a contractor to fix the roof and update the ancient wiring. I spent weekends painting and tearing out stained carpet. I replaced the avocado green appliances in the kitchen with simple, clean ones. I planted new flowers around my grandma's old rose bush, which was somehow still alive, stubborn little buds pushing through. Sometimes, when I was working, I'd remember specific moments. My mom sliding the college account statement into a drawer instead of showing me the balance. Ryan laughing at me when I said I couldn't afford to fly home for his bachelor party. My parents sending me a picture of his wedding cake that probably cost more than my first semester's books. For a long time, those memories made my jaw clench. But eventually, they started to take up less space. One afternoon, as I was pulling blue painter's tape off the trim in the hallway, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. We found a 2-bedroom apartment, it read. It's small, but it'll do. Your dad built some shelves. The kids like the playground. I hope you're happy in your house. There was an edge to it, of course. My mom doesn't know how to communicate without a little guilt. But something about the phrase your house made me smile. Because for the first time, it was true. People who hear this story always ask the same thing. Do you regret it? Do I regret not handing over my savings so my parents could keep the house? Do I regret buying it myself? The honest answer is, no. I don't enjoy their pain. I don't get some secret thrill out of knowing they had to downsize or that my mom still cries about losing everything. But I also don't regret finally choosing myself. When my parents spent my college fund on my brother's wedding, they made a decision about what my future was worth to them. They decided that their son's big day, his photos, his moment, mattered more than my stability, my education, my sense of safety. They taught me that in our family, promises weren't really promises, they were suggestions, subject to change when something shinier came along. Buying the house wasn't about punishing them for that. It was about making sure I didn't keep punishing myself. I could have gone on like before, bending over backwards to be the good daughter, writing checks, swallowing resentment, telling myself that was what love looked like. Instead, I decided that my love for them didn't have to include sacrificing my future on the altar of their bad decisions. So no, I don't regret it. I regret that it had to come to this. I regret that my parents chose a wedding over honesty, and that it took losing a house for them to even start understanding the cost of their choices. But when I unlock the front door now, when I walk past that old door frame with my faded height marks and into a kitchen I paid to remodel, I feel something I never felt in this house before. Secure. Not because of a fund someone else controls. Because this time, I wrote the check. This time, the safety net is mine. Would you have done what I did? Would you have saved the house and hoped they changed, or walked away and bought it like I did? Sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet, I still wonder. Then I think about 18-year-old me, standing in this same kitchen, hearing the words, "Your college account is empty. We used it for Ryan's wedding." And I know, for her sake, I made the only choice I could live with. Thank you for listening to my story.